Alright, so this is a tutorial video. It's really more of a demonstration of my process for creating some initial ideation drawings based on some of the images that you've either created or found. And so this footage obviously is sped up quite a bit, times 4 I think it is. So I don't draw this fast, clearly. So when you are doing your own drawings, take your time. And as you can see here, what I'm starting with is I'm just drawing, just straight drawing one of the images of that I've collected. And so I'm not going crazy with the detail. I'm trying to create shapes, patterns, and other ideas that I can use. And so you can see here, I've started going into drawing this thing as a three-dimensional object, starting from a two-dimensional drawing. So now I'm going into the third dimension and starting to imagine what this thing actually looks like as a three-dimensional object. Of course, I know that it's not, that the carving itself, obviously it has some relief in it, has some 3D-ness to it, but it's not a hugely three-dimensional image. So what I'm doing here is I'm reinventing it as a building. And so you can see I've drawn in some people just to kind of be like, all right, so this is now a building. And so this is really the whole kind of crux of the whole exercise, is reimagining. Oh, this is where my video cut out. But yeah, so as I was saying, reimagining your drawing as being some sort of building, and whether you do that via sorry, that's the video quality is not so awesome here, but whether you do that through just drawing it as three-dimensional objects, adding in people, or whether you do that by drawing plans or whatever that is, it doesn't matter, but there's lots of different ways of doing it. And not all of the drawings are going to work. So for example, this drawing that I'm working on here didn't really work out. It kind of didn't really go anywhere. I was trying to make it sort of more rectangular or straight liney. That didn't really work out. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating the negative spaces. So rather than drawing the eel itself, I'm drawing the spaces around it inside of the carving and seeing what happens with that. So that's that, and then now I'm going back and checking out what that would look like as a three-dimensional object. And so the method I'm using here is I'm using the planimetric method, where I'm turning the drawing on an angle and then just projecting straight up. This drawing didn't work out great. I had trouble keeping the Z direction, so going up part, going in the same direction, so a little bit out of practice there. But you can see here it's starting to turn into a building, and it's fine. Yeah, it's a little bit kind of, I'm not sure if this is a great idea, and it's just negative space, right, as an idea to kind of work with. Now you can work at different scales, right? So here I'm looking at it as a kind of furniture kind of scale. So drawing some people around it. This is the kind of the eye, if you like, of the tuna. And so I'm just trying to play around with it, get some drawings happening. I might use this idea later on. Right now I don't think it's hugely successful, and that's okay. That's the whole thing, is we're going to do so many drawings, most of them aren't going to work, and that's okay. Alright, so then so I moved on from that, and now I'm drawing the actual eels. So just a photograph that I got on the internet of some eels, and I'm just looking at what I can create out of that. Right, so first of all, again, just starting to draw the shapes and the forms that I see. I'm just keeping it very two-dimensional, just drawing in the shapes. It's not particularly accurate to the photograph, and that's okay. It doesn't really matter. And for this particular purpose, what I'm trying to do is get the feeling of those eels sort of slithering and then sliding over the top of each other, and what that kind of creates. A lot of what you're trying to do is kind of create a feeling or an experience, and so that's kind of part of the deal. Now here's the idea. So you may not have noticed, but I flipped the page over because what I was trying to do was looking at it going, is this going to be a plan? What's going on here? And then I started looking at it some more, and I just flipped the page over, and then it just started reading to me as an elevation for a building. And these are the kind of leaps that you're trying to create the space for having these leaps of vision, where you kind of start to see something different in the drawing that you make. And so, in a sense, the more that the drawing is slightly abstract when you start it, the more that you're going to be successful in making these leaps. If you do a really, really realistic drawing, in some senses you're limiting yourself. Again, I had some video problems here. Yeah, so here's an elevation of it's a crazy building, but you can kind of see that could work somehow. It's way too complicated, and functionally that's not gonna work. So what I'm kind of doing in these next drawings, these smaller drawings, is I'm trying to simplify things and see if the character of the design still sort of stays around. And what is the character of the drawing? That's the other thing, right? So again, I keep putting human figures in, really simple human figures, but human figures nonetheless, to make sure that I don't lose sight of the fact that it's not just exploring, shapes and forms, but shapes and forms in the sense of space and things like that. So I think this is the last drawing, so I took a little bit more time on this one maybe, but not a whole lot. And so I started thinking about what would happen if the ground wasn't flat, if the ground also undulated in the same way that the building did, so that you kind of have more to play with, that you don't have this kind of flat surface of the ground that kind of cuts off the shapes and forms of the building. And so yeah, so we're getting towards the end of it here. A little bit of shading, trying to make it look more three-dimensional, and you can see that this is not really a building. It's like a huge sculpture really. And so this is by no means the end of the process. This is not my concept for a building. It's really just playing around with the forms and starting to see, is there an architectural language that I can start to create